For anyone that doesn't know, Emma is a psychologist, TV presenter, writer, contribute to radio, print, and all manner of other places. And you've hosted...
Just wherever they'll have me, Hayden.
Well, yeah, so let's not sell it like that. Let's sell it as someone...
Okay, yeah.
You also hosted, was it Britain's Darkest Taboos?
Yeah, many seasons I did.
On the Crime Investigation channel. Is that still going? Or?
Not Taboos, but Crime Stories is still going. Meet, Marry, Murder is a new series. I'm still doing crime.
Meet, Marry, Murder.
Sounds like I'm still doing crime, but I mean, I'm still presenting crime.
I really wish that was a reality show.
Yeah, Meet, Marry, and Murder.
Yes, I would watch that.
That's one you should pitch. It's a little bit extreme, guys, but I've got this great idea. There's only half get out.
And not a lot of wages to pay. Just the winner takes it all.
You can't pay for reality TV a lot of the time. You just got to let them in for these
yeah,
kind
of course
they
don't pay for reality TV.
No, but I mean just documentary ones.
Oh, right. No, of course. No. And also, perhaps most importantly, as well as running your own practice.
Yeah, I still do therapy.
Yes. You also do free groups for people
online.
online.
I do lots of free work. Most of my work's for free in therapy. Bit of an obsession for me. Poor and marginalised deserve help and they don't really get it. So
hang on, this can't be right.
I grew up like you, working class, and I know how hard it is. So when I got to a point where I don't have a big life, Hayden, like I've got very small desires. As long as I've got a roof over my head and my car moves, I'm pretty happy. So as soon as I got to that stage, I thought I'll just do what I can.
Brilliant. Well,
I'm very lucky.
People might be wondering why on Trigger Warning I brought someone on that's just lovely to everybody. And, he's a psychologist and who is on television this morning.
Oh, I love it's one of my, do you know what?
After we finish, can I have the dirty secrets?
Oh, right, okay. We've got dirty secrets.
There must be. Just make some up.
Okay.
That'll be fine. Make some up. But I know people that watch the show regularly might be wondering, like, this doesn't sound like Trigger Warning. Why it's so lovely. Well, let me just give you a bit more of what people say about Emma on Twitter. My printer shat the bed. For this, I'm going to put the readers on because I'm getting old.
I'm looking forward to this.
No, there's nothing too terrible.
Just go for it.
But the first one, this is somebody that apparently follows you around quite a bit. I found a lot of comments from this person. This leads into the next one. Could also do with banning This Morning from showcasing these COVIDiots day in, day out, i.e., yes, not just say, i.e., yes, Denise Welsh, Carol McGiffin, Richard Madeley, Emma Kenny, Davina McCall, Kirsty Alsop, Julia Hartley-Loon.
Brewer.
He's talking about Mama Julia, Graham.
By the way, I follow all of them.
Yeah, of course you do. We call her Mama Julia.
Like
Mama Julia. And of course, Giles Brandreth.
I don't follow Giles, but I should. I like his jumpers.
Well, that's something. But you see, it goes on.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because a guy called Peter Jukes.
Oh, he hates me.
Oh, he doesn't like you. Not as much as this other person, but he doesn't like you.
Are we going to get to Jay? Is Jay going to be on there?
No, we stopped really soon. I'm really struggling to find something more reprehensible and dangerous than media figures, celebrities and PR accounts spreading information. I would offer Peter a list of things considerably more dangerous than that.
I mean, even like a basic blunt knife would be considerably more dangerous.
Here's the thing, it breaks his heart.
Does it break his heart?
It breaks his heart. The unnecessary deaths. Murderer.
I know.
And it fills him with cold, hard anger.
Does it?
Cold, hard anger.
He's one of the few men that I wouldn't mind taking to a white-collar boxing match.
Yeah, he's so angry that he tweeted about it.
Oh, I imagine.
Now, someone's responded, because it's time to double down here. Agree 100%.
100, obviously. 100. Don't do 200.
Could have been 112.
Always pisses me off, that.
It would have been nice if I'd just gone that bit further.
Just a little bit more effort.
I'm revolted by it, but fascinated at the same time about their motives.
Oh, yeah.
So we will come on to your motives. I'll never forget the despicable way they caused deaths. Past tense. So you've already done it.
Well, I mean, I'm on crime shows for a reason.
You've murdered people.
Absolutely, it's my
expertise. Again, it's the same list again of people. But here's the thing. What you've done...
What is the pièce de résistance?
Well, mostly I'm fascinated that you've already killed people.
I can't help it.
Because your great crime, as far as I can tell, is you're questioning lockdown.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You're not telling people don't do this, don't do that.
I disagree fundamentally with lockdown now. I do.
When it was the first lockdown...
Didn't disagree with that.
Yeah, it was a very different feeling, wasn't it? Even when it went on forever.
Yeah, it felt like a long time.
You thought it was something. But I know that one of the things you focused on is mental health.
Yeah,
obviously,
massively.
being a psychologist, and we've been told that there's not that much negative impact on mental health. Do you want to tell me why I'm wrong in saying that?
I mean, it's one of those really insane things at the moment for me, because what's happened is a study's been done on 9 million people. Basically, 9 million people in the population were looked at for 3 months after lockdown, well, during lockdown and 3 months prior to lockdown. And then they've said, well, there doesn't seem to be a substantial rise, just over 7%, which is in line with potentially the way that we expect to see, sadly, suicide going up every year. And then people are like, there you go. No issues with mental health. And it's just absolute bollocks. And we know it's bollocks because, number one, anecdotally, we have lots of people, even myself, dealing with far more issues around mental health and suicide. But suicidality is not the representation of somebody struggling with mental health. It's the extreme and the final. And the reality is that hopefully most people, if we do our jobs right, don't get to a point where they want to end their life. So it's the fact that Nadine Dorries, who is meant to be mental health minister, gleefully put this out. And this is one study. We won't know about suicide and the impacts on children and the elderly and all in between suicide-wise for at least 12 to 18 months, maybe 2 years because of the coroner's reports. And even if it comes out, and I doubt it will, that there hasn't been a growth in suicide, I think that what we will see is a reality of an exponential explosion regarding mental health. And then there's another part of that, which is, why do people think that studies identify mental health issues? You know, if you're going to look for it, of course, you can say, well, we interviewed this many people, but most people don't talk about it. Most people are just desperately sad and don't admit it. And I hate how we've academized everything. We've made everything about bloody studies. For example, now, an opinion, Twitter, Facebook, Insta, you cannot have an opinion unless you've peer reviewed it. Sorry. You can't be intelligent and questioning and inquisitive and curious. You can't be, I want a PhD, I want a medical qualification, I want 15 years in virology. That is such a middle class authoritarian perspective.
There's something I'd like to tell you about that.
Just to say, reality-wise, right, I tell you what, if you're a poor kid and you've had no advantages, don't you dare tell me you're not bright just because some kid who went to Oxford got a degree and the dad paid for it. And I don't disrespect people who do that. I'm saying, know your privilege.
Well, would you say that the guys from Sage are middle-class guys?
Oh my God!
Highly educated?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say that they're responsible for us locking down the country?
Yeah.
Do you know they got their data from Wikipedia?
And I believe Wikipedia, and I believe that the guy who is one of the people in charge of that didn't even have any science degree or something like that.
There are no coronavirus experts
No.
on the board of Sage. That's why we have that independent Sage now trying to come through. But even they're still saying we should lock down. But my entire point is, not only did we listen to Neil Ferguson, who I'd like to talk about in a little
I know.
fucking Wikipedia.
I know.
They Googled us into a lockdown.
I know.
And what we've got now is a situation where I'm watching your feed, obviously, because we follow each
Get
other.
loads of shit, don't I?
Tons of abuse. People trying to cancel the shit out of you.
I don't care.
No, of course not. But this is based on them believing the science.
I know.
And which is being delivered by a government who, under any other circumstances, you wouldn't trust to get laid in a brothel.
No.
Boris Johnson is a
Boris
serial
hasn't done
liar.
badly, though, has he? He's got laid quite a lot.
I don't know if that's got anything to do with his massive wealth. I'm sure that helps immeasurably. If Boris Johnson were from Beswick, he would definitely still be a virgin. We would never normally listen to these people.
No.
And now you're being fervently attacked for bringing out things like the Danish
Oh,
thing
that's
about mask wearing.
ridiculous.
We've got some things on here, and the way society's moving and grassing your neighbours.
I find it really difficult that I grew up in a working class environment, and I know that when I dedicated my life for a long time to kind of working with young people who are really disadvantaged, I bloody love kids who come from pretty challenging backgrounds because they often have got this incredible potential and no one's ever listened to them. And I always used to work really differently with young people. So I'm kind of really dedicated and committed to people who don't necessarily have the best experience. And then, of course, that makes me biased, because when I see middle-class people making decisions about communities they've never even spent any time with, they're fundamentally going to get it wrong. And on top of that, when I look at the way that you've just identified that stuff that's coming out in the BBC programme about where they found data from, you know, my sister's ex-headmistress, it changed on Wikipedia to was a crackhead. Anybody could edit it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of knowledge. You can just do this kind of stuff. But also, I think that fundamentally and systematically what I've seen is the UK has fell into this abyss. And this abyss is that nowadays, unless you have one narrative and you follow that, you are dangerous. And when it comes down to what I was saying before about the making the society that we live in either academic or, shall we say, you aren't allowed an opinion now unless you follow a certain protocol, whether that's being qualified or having an academic research paper that backs you. And I want to really shout at people a lot of the time, although I don't, because I'm human. I'm an instinctual being. And my instinct says, this is rotten. This is absolutely rotten to the core. And I've got every empathy with the government in the first few weeks. They didn't have the data, but you know what they did pretty quickly, because South Africa evidenced that about 50% of people over there are under 19, and they weren't losing people.
Yeah.
And that's because the population demonstrated it was particularly an age demographic. And the second thing that we don't talk about, because it's unpopular, is we know that one of the major comorbidities is being obese, right? But the government's been cool about selling you shit for years. I mean, they really care about you guys. They care so much about you that, you know, we'll lock you down, we'll ruin your economy, we'll make you scared for months and months and months. But by the way, why don't you eat a bit of this shit here? Because that's just going to make you fat, and that probably will kill you. That's the issue. So what drives me mad about the way that people come for you is they come for you on a monolithic level.
Yes.
They say, this is the data, we've got this peer reviewed, and there is this screaming hypocrisy and contradiction on the other side. And then there is this absolute, mind-blowingly large, absolutely catastrophic picture being formed for the working classes and the underclasses, and middle class people on the whole, with respect, no disrespect if you've had a life of privilege. I think that makes you probably somebody who can enjoy lots of great things, as well as you'll have had your struggles. I do not deny that. But the idea that people are telling individuals who've not had a penny for all these months, you know what, just dig deep, cope with it a little bit longer.
We spoke about this on one of the shows. Was it Patton Oswalt, the US comedian, who said, how hard is it? Just watch Netflix and eat pizza.
Oh, God.
Hey, Patton, there's a lot of people that can't afford those things. Not only that, it's the general attitude online. I saw a perfect description. I really, really wish I'd saved who it was that tweeted this, because he encapsulated it perfectly to me. He said, there was no lockdown. There were middle-class people hiding while working-class people fed them.
I didn't stop working. Did you stop working?
No, of course not.
No.
I'd have no house if
No,
I stopped
I
working.
wouldn't.
That's the way it goes.
We didn't get any help at all.
No, none. And what alarms me is they're saying, well, it's for everybody's good, but they're happy for people to go and work in the supermarkets.
Oh, yeah, Tesco workers apparently immune.
Yeah, drive the lorries, do the dirty jobs,
Amazon
empty
workers.
the bins.
Oh, the bin men, of course.
Definitely Amazon
Yeah.
workers, because whilst we're watching all these small businesses failing, Amazon doing remarkably well.
Yeah, COVID's really clever.
But there's something else came out today. He says, not remembering where he left, I'm sure I've left one of my packs and notes, but they've decided that one of the worst places for infections, supermarkets. But they have left schools and care homes off the research for some reason.
Well, you know, it's an odd thing, really, because we have to get real. This is the virus. One, you don't end a virus. Secondly, you don't necessarily want to chase it, in the fact that you don't want to advertise everywhere that there's a possibility of getting sick, because people are traumatized. And you've got two levels, haven't you, to this? You've got traumatization and desensitization, and you've got somewhere in the middle. And the thing about desensitization is it's powerful. So when you first start telling people there's going to be loads of deaths, like Neil Ferguson did,
Yes.
and then we're all waiting for it, and then not only do those deaths not eventuate in the imagined potential that we thought they would, we then start seeing an eradication of trust by actions of people who are meant to know better, betraying their own rules. But then the big problem you've got is the actual evidence doesn't become apparent to the average human. Now listen,
Yes.
if you worked in care homes, you're going to have felt traumatised because it's going to be horrific. That should be an inquiry. what happened there was the government's mistake and it's offensive.
I'll just let you know that I can't say on air who I heard it from. There are going to be inquiries.
There better be.
They'll be originating. The call from them are actually originating from the northwest, because of what happened to my mother-in-law and what the care home staff went through there. There are going to be inquiries into this, whether anything comes of them. But there are going to be inquiries in basically old people being left to die.
Right, sent back to the care
Just left to
homes,
die.
all of that. So, like, you've got this massive amount of deaths there. And then on top of that, you kind of look at the fact that people, on the whole, if you are under 75 and, you know, your family's relatively healthy, you know, you're probably not going to have lost anybody or known anybody, right? Yeah. So then you get desensitized. So you're not going to get those to trust or those to do whatever you want anyway. On the other side, you've got people who are really terrified, and it's actually maybe even worth them being terrified too, because they've fundamentally been able to pay their bills and have a bit of downtime. Because I think that one of the things I was talking about when I was doing this conversation about workplace changes and like the culture of the conscious workplace that I've been working on a study recently about, one of the things I was looking at there is that for some people, I'm not going to take away the fact that lockdown's probably been a breeze. They've probably loved being at home, not had to commute. I don't take that away, and I think that's institutional and systemic about failures in our workplace. I don't think we should be going, oh, like, enjoy that. We should be like, why are you so stressed at work, and what can we do to change that? You know, what can we learn from that? But what I really want is for people who are in good situations, and this is the bit that really sticks in my throat. If you are in a really good situation, please can you look at the counter? Because I lie in bed awake at night and all I can think about is kids in abusive homes. And all I can imagine is the 2.5 million kids who are black and Asian kids all over the world who are going to die because of the drop in GDP.
Yeah.
So I don't get the me, I get the we.
Look at the offer the government have made. You can have 5 days at Christmas.
I mean, piss off.
If you have another month in lockdown.
I mean, do one.
Now, before I even get into the fact that I do not want to be told what to do by the
But
government.
just do one anyway. What science
Well,
is
here's
that?
the thing. For Christmas.
So people don't die.
Well, for Christmas, I saw someone in tears because he had to lay people off.
It's just...
Businesses have been destroyed. What Christmas have they got to look forward
I know.
to?
3 million people have been excluded in the UK and had no money at all. Yeah. Not a penny.
Businesses
14
are failing.
million people live in poverty in the UK. 14 million people are poorer because of that. 30 million people don't have access to smart technology because they have a tiny amount of data on their mobile pay-as-you-go. 2 million people don't have an internet.
In the 6th richest nation on earth.
Yeah, so you ask yourself, who are the voices lending itself to these decisions? And I tell you what they are, they're Twitter and YouGov polls, and nobody actually representative is filling those in.
Oh, never. I don't know anybody that's done a
But you're
YouGov
so
poll.
detached in the aristocracy or the higher middle classes when you never had to worry about money and you don't understand what it's like to be hungry. You look at those and you believe that's representative. You don't think, there's only 14% of people on Twitter in the UK and probably half of those are the same people.
Yes.
Because the amount of paid bots I've found have been an awakening. That's representing us, and it's wholly inappropriate. And that's the bit that I like. I know this sounds really Machiavellian when I say it, but what I love about people is I see how underestimated the ordinary human is. I really do. I like that. I like the fact that government thinks that we are in the palm of their hand to some degree and that people are really congratulating and really for all this. And all I see is this growing unease.
And resentment,
And the
yes.
more that they believe what they believe, the more shocking it will be for them. Because I'm telling you, it's time limited now. People will not put up with this any longer.
No, it definitely is a law of diminishing returns.
It
isn't it?
is. And don't you feel that every empire has fallen because of the common underestimation of the ordinary human?
Every time.
I
every
love
single
it.
time. I mean, look back to the Thatcher days with the poll tax thing. I know it's a much smaller thing.
I got told off for that.
But people say you
Got
can't.
bailiffs at my house.
You can't change government. Oh, you can. It just takes enough of you.
It takes enough, and it also, I think these days, because social media has got a brilliant side to it and a really toxic side to it, and also a toxic side will always show itself more than the brilliant side because people are more motivated by doing negative
People
stuff.
complain much more readily than they praise. Yes.
Right.
Of course. I think there's another big issue, which is I think the governments have as much control over us now in this age of information as they had in the 30s. And yeah, I'm not suggesting Boris Johnson is the reincarnation of the Nazi Party, but you know, a lot of the techniques that we're seeing now
Oh, I know.
are not far divorced.
coercive
lies,
control, isn't
half-truths, eradication of freedoms that we're just handing away.
But also, like, that kind of coercive control is very much like that idea of gaslighting.
Don't kill Granny.
The idea of traumatization, then giving you a pat on the head and saying, oh, you can go out now and we'll give you some treats, and then get back in your hole.
Yeah.
And then they're bad, you're good, they're terrible, you're brilliant. That's the way that you create that kind of really confused state.
Yeah, keep people scared. We know for a fact, for a fact, I assume.
There'll be somebody like that. Well, have you got a fact checker?
When we come out of,
data?
when we come out of lockdown in 2 weeks, if we come out in 2 weeks, we'll be straight back into tier 3 here in Manchester.
We haven't been anywhere out of it, have we?
No, it's going to continue.
Although the data is evident today to show you that we won't need to do any of that. Also, the research is saying that now the vaccines are unlikely to be required for most of us because we'll have T cells which will protect us for around 17 years.
No one wants to talk about that.
No one wants to talk about it, but that's the beauty again. And this is the great thing that I like about the human race. So at the moment, you can see that definitely there are people who are deeply concerned about, for example, a group of very rich people coming to try to take over the world. And I'm always the same. I always say, well, yeah, that's like always been the case, colonialism and onwards, right? It's always been the case. There's always people who are arrogant enough to think we could do it better.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the key, that these people don't necessarily think that their ideas are terrible. They think that they know what's best for us stupid people. But equally, there are just as rich people who are like, screw you.
Yeah.
And so
what I
that
noticed
balance
online
exists.
is that thing, and it's the assumption that working classes are automatically stupid.
know.
Because people think, well, we have to look after the idiots. And it's like, you never count yourself amongst that number.
The very fact that you're making that statement makes you an idiot.
Yeah, and it's this assumption. It's like, well, they just go and carry on back to normal, to the pub. It's good.
God.
Let them do it. Yeah, but they'll kill Granny. Except they're not killing fucking Granny.
I know.
Granny died during the lockdown.
And Granny's dying of emotional abuse and loneliness.
And also the average age, to be fair. And again,
82.4.
yeah, we don't want to come across like we're saying there's no virus, it's a fake or anything like that. But the average age of dying hasn't changed a great deal.
I think the problem with that whole thing is, like, obviously people who are in their 80s are incredibly wise and bright, and they make a community richer, and we all know.
Hi guys, welcome back. We were having some really bad YouTube problems. It was all going out fine from here. Apparently it was just all getting fucked up when it got to YouTube. So clearly they're trying to silence us.
The work of the devil.
It is. It's the
The work
Illuminati.
of the devil.
The Illuminati. They're
They're like,
onto
they're going to
us.
say something that completely breaks this shit down, and it's just going to be over.
They don't want us
Lockdown
to-
will just be done.
They don't like us talking about it. They don't like us talking about it. So we've had the halftime oranges.
Yeah, we did.
We're all
We enjoyed
settled.
that.
We're ready to go. We spoke about people's reactions to poor people, about
Yeah.
lockdown. And one of the things we mentioned briefly, that it's just come out that lockdown was based on
False data.
data found on Wikipedia. But we also listened to a chap called Neil Ferguson.
Mr. Swine Flu before
He's
that, right?
very, very popular with the government. So just as a couple of things. Now, remember, it's really important people realise this is the man the government go to
Yeah.
for predictions.
Yeah.
Because he's very accurate.
Yeah.
He's a scientist. A proper one. White coat, the works. Lightning, all that shit. He's an epidemiologist
Yeah.
for the Imperial College, which is nice. So he was behind the disputed research that sparked the mass culling of 11 million sheep and cattle during the foot and one outbreak, because he predicted that up to 150,000 people could die. Less than 200 people died
Yeah.
of foot and mouth disease. 11 million cattle and sheep were killed, and lots of farmers were put out of business for nothing. But he didn't stop there. In 2002, he predicted that up to 50,000 people would likely die from exposure to BSE,
Yeah.
mad cow disease. 177 people died from BSE. It's 177,
Oh,
but
awful.
it's not quite up there at 50,000 people
No.
getting dementia and
You get a lot more suicides.
in 2005, he predicted up to 150 million people could be killed by bird flu.
I mean, that one on its own, I mean, 150
He was a little bit
million.
out. 282
I know.
people. Now, I'm no expert. I'm going to be honest.
Neither's
I'm-
Neil.
I know. But I'm going to say that if you have a gamble, you should be a little bit closer.
Yeah. Well, you should probably ask him to play a game of like higher or lower.
Yeah. Oh,
Just
he went
always
higher.
go lower.
He
Just
went
like-
higher.
That's
149.8 million higher. But he also said that in 2009, he said a reasonable worst case scenario for the swine flu would be 65,000
Yeah.
British deaths. 457 people died of swine flu. Still far less than die of flu. Last March, Ferguson admitted that his Imperial College model of the COVID-19 disease was based on undocumented 13-year-old computer code that was intended to be used for a feared influenza pandemic rather than a coronavirus. He's declined to release his original code so other scientists could check his results. He only released a heavily revised set of code last week after a 6-week delay.
I mean, how corrupt is that?
They still listen to him.
Well, I mean, I don't know who they're listening to. I don't just think it's him.
No,
I think that
he's the
scientists...
data guy, isn't he, for Sage, and then it...
I think that Valens and Whitty are risk averse. I think they also definitely have vested interests in pharmaceutical companies. But then you'd expect that. If you're a scientist, you know, as much as you can look at it in the most corrupt light of vested interests and profit potential, you've also got to look at their life, which is that's what they believe in, the medical model, and therefore they probably have invested money in pharmaceuticals because it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
as
they're
far
going
as
to
they're
invest in the
concerned.
thing they know about as well.
But you can also understand that that then drives people to question because you're like, hang on a minute, you're going to make how much? But again, I pull back from that because I think that people like money. You're risk averse. You see vaccines and you see pharmaceutical drugs. They make a hell of a lot of money. Why wouldn't you put your pension pot there?
Problem is, what it reminds me of is the Surgeon General in the United States when they banned vaping. Because it turns out a few kids vaped a load of moody THC.
We've all done it.
Which had wax in it. Which turns to
Stay
oil.
away from the wax,
Yeah, it
kids.
turns to oil in the lungs, and that's bad. So they banned all vaping. Just so happens he has shares in tobacco companies.
Absolutely. Money corrupts without
Yeah.
a doubt. And so does it impact on your decision making, much as nepotism does. And giving your friends jobs and giving your friends
Massive
all the roles.
contracts.
Absolutely. But then that's also human nature. Think about people who employ their son or employ their daughter or employ their friend. It's part of what we do. So again, when you extrapolate that, it's not good and it should be not happening, but also it's very human as opposed to it being some kind of conspiracy, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
it's important to do that because otherwise you can literally lose your mind because you would say to yourself, this is all ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, this is ridiculous. We've got a man who's been evidentially shown to just make vastly disproportionate reactions to situations that have been proven time and time again. It's almost like they wheel him out of a cupboard and he's like, this time!
He's the human version of the Daily Express.
Right, but he's very risk averse too. So again, his idea of this drama, and the thing about dramas really gets me. Okay, so Bill Gates has 2 bunkers. People will be like, what does Bill think's going to happen? Because at the end of the day, who has 2 bunkers? Well, Bill, like many rich people, don't really have that many exciting things happen because they can afford anything. So when you don't have that much of an exciting life, you can kind of go, well, let's make it a bit exciting. What can we imagine? Ooh, maybe a nuclear fallout. Let's build a lifetime bunker underneath my house. And actually, that's drama.
Yeah.
That's drama. And a lot of these people, when you actually look at it in context, you can say, well, it's evil. But actually, it's just they are drama kings and queens.
I think we're living in a time, aren't we, where conspiracy theories, it's the most fertile ground.
Well, I understand, because when you look at conspiracy theories, they've been a lot more right all the way through this than
Yes.
people who at the beginning, like me, were kind of going, oh, this will be over in 3 weeks.
It's the temptation, isn't it, though, that once
Don't
you
go
go
down.
down that rabbit hole, you can't stop. Now, I'm a believer...
But I respect people who at least...
yeah.
I respect more about people who are conspiracy theorists is they at least look at data.
Well, my point is everyone should be free to believe
Yeah,
whatever
absolutely.
they like. And
But at least they're doing the maths.
Yes.
I think that it's really hard when the government's not entertaining a discussion, because the problem is if you are going to counter conspiracy theorists, and I don't think that we should give people a title with that negatively, because actually many conspiracy theories have been proven correct
yeah, it's
over
only a
time.
theory about a conspiracy. It's-
Absolutely, and it's been shown. Let's take weapons of mass destruction.
Yes.
Absolutely proven to be correct. cost a lot of lives. So we know governments lie to us. We know conspiracy theories are proven correct. You cannot just debunk people in that way. You have to listen. And the only way you'll breed it is by ignoring them. So if the government's willing to have a honourable discussion with people like Michael Yeadon, an incredible scientist, Professor Levitt, one of the Nobel Prize winners. But no, let's just discredit these guys because they're not playing the narrative. Of course you'll give power to people.
This is where
who
it
are down
gets
the rabbit
really
hole.
sinister, though. Because I know people are more terrified of chaos than they are anything else. I'm a believer in the opportunist theory, that bad people will use whatever opportunity to do whatever they can. I think that's human nature. Although we did speak earlier about critical theory being almost planned in its approach and its attack, but that's a different thing. I don't necessarily connect the dots to everything else. But what we're seeing from the government isn't just ignoring conspiracy
No, they're
theories.
lying.
For example, in Germany, they're basically trying to pass something the same as, was it the Enabling Act that the Nazis used, where it gave the Chancellor complete power?
Oh.
They're trying to pass something like that again. Didn't work out great for
Unsurprising.
everybody last time. But also, everyone that thinks here in the UK was safe. We know in Scotland we were chuckling about their proposed hate crime laws.
I mean, what has she done? Has she swallowed like a whole movie of Contagion and just playing it out in
It's
her own
unreal.
mind?
It's unreal.
God.
But here in the UK, sorry guys, in England, the counter-terror chief of the Metropolitan Police, Neil Basu,
ridiculous.
he wants action taken on coronavirus anti-vaxxers. And what I found particularly interesting isn't just that now they want to make it illegal to have a different opinion. It's how they're selling it as basically this is drawing people to far-right extremism. Now, I know a lot of conspiracy theorists.
Well, just
Far
thinkers.
right.
Everybody's
Yeah.
got. Is it
Well,
like?
I'm
I don't even
talking
like
about.
that tag.
I'm
I think
talking about real
people-
ones.
Yeah, but even if they are, it's like they're
Yeah.
allowed to.
Well, that's
thought
fine.
process,
It's just
right?
a tag I use. It's,
Yeah.
it's not even derogatory.
No, it shouldn't be.
But even the full-blown ones, I would say the overwhelming majority are quite the opposite of far right.
Yeah.
Now, there are some that are anti-Semitic, but we're not. Those people exist. But that's how they're selling it now. That if you are an anti-vaxxer, which, by the way, you are
Apparently
an
I
anti-vaxxer.
am.
I'm an anti-vaxxer.
Apparently, I'm an anti-vaxxer, anti-Brexit, anti-white, anti-mask woman.
Doing well.
I mean, who knew? I didn't.
I don't get anti-white, obviously, because I look like a fascist. Therefore, I am a terrible racist and I hate everybody,
so screwed
obviously.
up. It's so screwed up.
But that's what they're
No,
doing.
well, I'm against you, so
Well, naturally.
apparently I'm anti-you.
No, well, that's fine. I'm not actually one of them, but that's fine. I'll take it as
I
on
know
board.
you're not, but yeah.
I'll take it on board.
I'm not one of them either. Like,
I'm very
I won't kill
pro-Israeli.
anybody.
I'm very pro-Israeli. But what we do, to be fair, we do call Netanyahu King Bibi because it drives people fucking mental. I use gifs of him all the time. It really annoys people.